Theory podcast.
What's up, people? Welcome to Creative Theory podcast. This is attempt number 2 to start this thing. I'm definitely going to do a lot better. This is the show that brings you conversations with visual artists about how they got to where they got, what their day-to-day is like, what their struggles are, thoughts in the art world, and a lot more. Today in studio, I'm very lucky to have this good fella. He's a really good friend of mine. I'm very happy to have him here. He's a Canadian artist who works as a teacher, fine artist, concept artist. He's originally from Korea and now living in Vancouver. Jace Kim.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining the show, dude.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
That's
actually,
great.
I should have said Jace, Junggyu.
Kim, yeah, Junggyu.
Kim.
Yeah, I get made fun of that name because it's really close to Korean dictator's name. Kim Jong-un.
Don't let those people make fun of you.
No, but that's
Silly
good. I
people.
like it. I like to get make fun of with my name, so
Okay. Well, I won't. In the intro, is there anything I missed that I should have added to that? You studied at Emily Carr?
Yeah.
Grad?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll make sure to get into all of that.
Yeah.
But I like having people like you on the show who do multiple things. You don't just paint. You like I mentioned before. You teach. You do concept art. How have you been finding a good balance between all of those?
I think I basically went around so much that I started as an animation major.
Mhm.
I used to work in it a little bit as an animator, and I moved to concept art industry for a little bit too, and then I finally grabbed a brush and painting a canvas. So, but I kind of wanted to do everything at the same time. That was sort of a point where I realized when I teach students, that's the most that's a really good tool to do everything I want little bit by little. Like we talked about another day when I know the most ultimate reason for teaching is for me to learn from school students too. Like I get to do a little bit of concept art, a little bit of illustration, a little bit of fine art and everything all together. So I think teaching, I don't want to even say teaching. I want to say it's mentoring and guiding, but I sometimes learn a lot from students. That's the biggest thing of it.
That's what I often hear about teaching. So do you feel like you didn't really have to let go of all these other aspects, like you said, illustration and concept art, because you kind of get to do it still? Yeah,
because I don't really get to make money out of concept art.
Okay.
But then I help students, like I teach students to do, because I know I've been in the industry. I just know a lot of stuff that I got from my art director, whoever I worked with, and apply those elements into my teaching, and somehow they learn a lot because they're going a lot of like orthodox, very systemized program where they don't really incline them into the industry level. They're always thinking that, oh, you gotta go do this, otherwise you would suck. You know, we can talk about more about that, but then my teaching was coming from working in little Korean studio. Initially, when I was in school, I was making money for my own intuition and everything, right? Because I was I kind of forced to be self-independent because my parents couldn't support me that much. I still love them so much that the way they allow me so much, there's such a freedom that I didn't really have to, go for mathematics, science, all this very conventional expectation of my the Korean parents. So when I was working in the studio, I didn't know at the time, but was quite indoctrinating. I think the word is term is kind of a harsh, but there was an indoctrinating nature that when you go to school, when you go to this institute, everybody has to do the same regardless of what you're really into, dude. Like,
so you think schools make the same kind of artist every time? Is that what you're saying?
No, not necessarily school. I think school here is better, but even where I'm from, like I don't really know much of I've never been educated in Korean, fine arts schools. But what I hear about a lot of people is that they're making it too systemized. Okay. So it's like either if you get a high mark, you go into design. If you get a little lower, you get a fine art. Whatever they're like dictating. I mean, they're dictating the direction. That was I didn't know, but then I heard this so many times from my students that are coming from Korea, who experienced a little bit more than I did, and then I hear about this crazy thing, and then even they're making, they pay for having a portfolio to get into school. You pay like $1,000 and you get like 15 pieces.
What?
I don't know how. Yeah, but
Wow.
if you hear about it, this is crazy. But then that's a huge industry. There's
Do you think
so
it
much
happens
money
here in Vancouver as well?
No, I think, but partially that's why I brought it up. When I was working in this little studio, like Korean studio,
Okay.
they brought that system here, and then that's how, because a lot of Korean parents, the different generation, they think it's better that you're more successful when you go to better school,
Okay.
like more prestigious school, not necessarily like school that fits you.
Okay. And what you're saying is that that's not the way you teach anymore. You're
Nah, I'm
okay.
kind of against that idea. So I'm doing it
Great.
more. Yeah, I'm doing it more of a. I care about students more subjectively. I really care about their subjectivity, as in like what they really want to do. I talk a lot of time. Like spend more time talking to student what their willingness to be, like what they want to be after learning all this. What do you want to be?
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of beginning question to start with, and then when they don't know, like half of them don't know, right? Half of them, but then they know,
Yeah.
like I'm kind of interested in doing this, but Jace, can I make money out of this? Like, can I do well with this? Like,
Yeah.
they're really curious about it too, right? So
It's so difficult because you won't really know, even if you won't know until you try it as well, right? You can probably have an idea
exactly,
of what you would prefer to do.
So I think for me, it's not necessarily teaching. I provide them a chance to do it. Like
Okay.
you get
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
do a little bit of it because I've done so many different
Totally.
things
yeah.
in the field of art, so that I can give a glimpse of this and I can give a glimpse of this, and then students fall for that. And then once
Mhm.
they realize is, oh, this is what they want to do, and then I can just like exclusively guiding them to that direction. And once they find that it's really beneficiating, then
Yeah.
they continue doing it. But everybody changes direction every once a year, like
Of course.
in school. I mean, if you get into the university, that's what happened to us too. Like
Mhm.
we went there, realized this isn't working. But for me, when I realized that this wasn't working, I
Mhm.
still had to stay there because I didn't want to quit.
In school?
I was
Hard
I
work,
mean,
okay.
we can talk about Emily Carr. Emily Carr is great school, but it subjectively didn't work out with me. I hated the foundation year, which was more conceptual based, and everything I learned was very against the idea that I thought it was really important for me. I can talk about this story. One drawing class I had, I was pretty much do an all-nighter. I didn't sleep for 2 days, and I did a really hyper-realistic hand drawing
Yeah.
for the assignment. And then this girl who came into the, she didn't do actually assignment at the day, and then at the day when we were presenting the work, she came in the break, and then she did this really quick sketch of it.
Yeah.
And she got same mark as I did.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe I'm not talking about, maybe she did a great job, right? Like she did a great job sketching it, whatever. But that craftsmanship the commitment that I put it onto was kind of being neglected. And then I felt like I don't even blame the teacher. Maybe it was that I was waiting too much on the technicality of art rather
Mhm.
than conceptuality of it. Like I had a nice thing to say about it, but even back then my English wasn't good. I mean, that became a kind of barrier. And Emily Carr, you do pretty much presentation every day
It's always
and
talking,
every
right?
week. Yeah, every week. And then like for me to step up and like say these things were like big words and big vocabs where I was an ESL student. I was even when I was in Emily Carr, I was taking like intensive English class because
Wow.
my English wasn't good. So I had hard time, but I overcame. So my English got a little better now. But then yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're kind of you're being too kind to the teacher. That's cool. But I think it's interesting what you mentioned, because that's something I've heard many times, how the conceptual versus like technical skill is always, I think especially in fine art education, it's always kind of a battle between the two. And it seems like because you already knew where you wanted to go with your art, like it sounds like by the time you arrived to Emily Carr, you already had quite a pretty good level of technical skill.
Yeah, but then like speaking of the foundation year is basically the one that allows you to do many different things.
Yeah.
But then many different things as in if you have a more specific, ultimate goal for it,
Mm-hmm.
you find it really unnecessary for those academic courses like such
Sure.
as cultural theory and like even English. English is important, but like art history. I mean, I don't really remember anything from like my art history course. But
What
the
is
first
that?
year.
What is that? What
It's
is it
just
about?
like you to go Renaissance and all that stuff, like very before like modern art. You learn all these things, but
okay.
then you don't, like you get to test. Test is pretty much asking you where does this work from? Like, and then like you compare this art to the modern art when you write an essay about it, that kind of stuff. It's important, but at the same time, I feel like we should learn more modern art. So I don't really teach students before modern art, like before 1945, because like that's pretty much after like postmodern and everything. Art had a really drastic change after that. So, and then
I think learning art history makes you really well-rounded, and I imagine that I can see the value in it, not only where it came from, but also when you're making something you think is new. Quite often it's something that's already, so I can see the value of that, but then again, you know, if the students you're teaching are going to go to university, they're probably going to get it there. So it seems like you have a really good awareness of what they need to get in there, right? So that makes sense. And actually, so what you're talking about, not having those courses, that's what a lot of private institutions or schools do these days, where they just streamline. It's like under 2 years, super expensive, but it's a tough one. So even though you said in the first year at Emily Carr, you already knew that it was not really working for you, you stayed through the whole thing.
But yeah, because I didn't want to consider myself a failure. Maybe my parents didn't think of me as a failure. That's the one thing I think I thought. I don't want to say it's Korean thing, but I think it's the Korean mindset. As in my parents, who had so much expectation on me, not as a non-artist. They gave me a freedom, as I said. But then once I became artist, I wanted to prove that to them. You know what I mean? Like, I can do this well by myself.
Did they think it was not gonna make money, like as a career?
I think they thought of it at one point of time. There's a lot of people. Even I talk to my students' parents. They come to my like like meeting and say, "Oh, art doesn't make money." Like I don't want my students do fine art. I don't want. So like your frank thing, like right now, 90% of like only like 5% of 10% of my students are learning fine art from me.
And what
the rest of them are like graphic design, concept art, illustration, and more digital stuff, because I provide them a lot. Because it's really hard. It's easy now. You get a lot of sources from YouTube, but if you think about it, you go to this. That's the one thing too. Like I can talk about this little. I mean, I can talk about this forever. But then, I mean, Korean people, especially, not only Korean, but then they're really demanding secondary school. Like you know, what I mean, when they feel the lack, I can substitute that lack by paying someone to teach me. So they're doing bad in math. I can get a math tutor. Mom, I want a math tutor. I'm suck in science. I want a science tutor. And so even art, I suck at this. So can I get to learn? But then can I go to studio? Where should I go? And then they get connected. And then when they're brought to my studio, and then like they wanted to learn from me, realizing that, oh, it's not just substituting that lack. I have to be passionate about this.
Of course.
And then they thought that, oh, I wasn't. This is not what I wanted, and I mean, half of my students are kind of like, I don't force them to quit, but when they're having that different sort of mindset and thought, I'd rather like tell them to, oh, you don't disrespect every other my students, because it's like, if you are not willing and passionate about this is not as valuable. So I became harsh right now.
Do their parents hate you?
Maybe they got to hate me sometimes, because I actually literally like kick out one of my students that because I mean he wasn't doing any work, he wasn't doing any homework. I told him to do a certain amount of work every day, and then but he never he always broke the promises. So he came with empty-handed at one day, and then I call her mom and directly say, oh, I didn't like mad, like I wasn't mad, I was just talking really realistically. Oh, ma'am, I don't think this is working for him, so maybe I will give you the money back. The money that I got for. So
that's amazing. No, I love that, and especially, I guess the amazing part is because you're around your own school, you have the freedom to do that, because
exactly. I'm not working for anybody else.
But I think it's perfect. I think it's a shame when teachers are not allowed to fail students or are not allowed to kick students out, because in some schools you're not allowed to do that, and that's.
I think it's a business mindset too.
Of course,
you don't want to. You need to make more money out of it.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you don't care about students as people, right? Because you do, and you're able to do that, and you're probably able to save them time and money, and say, you should find something you love. Because
that's actually guiding them. You're actually helping that way better. Like instead of you said it's just called helping, but you just make them staying in your studio. You make money, but they're not getting anything out of that. Then
well, but and also I did some teaching in the past as well. It's not fun for you to teach a person who doesn't want to be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's actually really frustrating. And
And then, as I said, if I don't ever learn anything from them, like they don't show the passion, and I don't really get to learn anything from them. I know that this kid is not gonna get me anything.
Yeah.
Like not just about money. It's monetary value. It's important, but it's not at this stage of my myself as an artist doesn't really require as much. So I just wanted to. I'm at the point where I can just like easily say, okay, I don't need to teach you if I don't help you.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
It's really cool that you can be in that position, because it sounds like it can be very freeing.
Yeah.
You get to do what you like, and
then that all came back to me in Amelie Carr, thinking that I don't want to consider myself as a failure by quitting the school. And if I quit this school, my mom's going to be worried, and my father's going to be like, oh, Jace, you got to think about the realistic side of it. You can't just be like that. And then, so I stay there. Try to figure out how to get this, get this work out. Yeah. And I went to animation, that's why. And then I think that was little kind of ignorant too, because I didn't like animation that much even back then.
Wow.
Like I didn't know. I mean, I love watching animation, but many people like misunderstand the concept of animation. Animation is actually locomotion. You're learning, like creating the locomotion,
like
illusion of movement.
Yeah,
illusion of movement. But then I was thinking maybe we're doing more character design or a comic book. I mean, there's a storyboarding sense and everything too. Because I wanted to be a comic book artist so long when I was a child. I was highly influenced manga and stuff. So that's my ultimate dream. But I knew that it was going to happen. Oh, might as well. Let's go for animation. But then, like, the theory of animation wasn't the one that I thought that I should be doing.
So when you went to Amelie Carr, when you applied to school, because you only moved to Canada when you applied for the school, right?
Oh no, actually, I came here when I was grade 10. Grade 9, 9 and 10. So I actually went through a little bit of high school program, but then I was hanging out with just Koreans, and I had like non-Korean friends, but then like it was harder for me to communicate. Like communicate is a huge barrier. So I didn't spend much time like hanging out with that actual culture that I'm provided. I was like in the between of like 1.5 generation where you are still like in that circumstances where you should be more acknowledging the culture and the value of it, but then I was too young to understand all that. So and then went to Amelie Carr because everybody says Amelie Carr is good, and even the studio that I was attending as a student.
Oh, so you're attending
and then I get to work there for later, future.
Nice.
So I went there, and then the teacher asked me, she didn't even ask me what I wanted to do. She used to say, "Oh, are you gonna stay in Vancouver?" Yeah, I don't have money. My parents are not gonna support me, so I have to stay in Vancouver. Then like teachers automatically saying, "Oh, then Amelie Carr." And you think about it, there's just so many different schools that you could go, but then like
right at the Capilano,
the Capilano is great, and then like even back then, I don't have as much as now, but then nowadays there's a small like Banart, like
totally
VCAD, they're doing a lot of like smaller animation programs, but then so I went to Amelie Carr. For the second year, you get to decide your major, and I went for animation because of that. Like people saying that so there's more money.
But what did you think you wanted to do versus what happened? What did you think you were going to learn? Because was it the comic books that you wanted to
and then that point? And then I was a part of this non-profit organization called No Art. We made named in No Art because it's like art for everything can be art. That's the concept of it. So and then I was doing more painting and drawing that for the thing. So we did this like independent gallery thing, and it's like a very outside of school. Like that's additional work you do it for, just like what you do right now. Outside of your full-time job, you do this and that, all that, right? So I kind of like the idea. I was having more fun doing that than the fun that I was having in school. So and then so even I think I wanted to do painting even back then. Like I wanted to do painting so bad, but then that idea of like you cannot make money out of fine art, that's just dragged me out. And then I went for animation because people saying you can make more money out of it. The industry is kind of booming, and even back then animation was kind of like going bigger, but then everything was like sort of transiting to 3D rather than 2D. Yeah.
This is so funny because, and I think you and I talked about this because my story is kind of exactly the same.
Yeah.
When I was looking for school and I thought I would do illustration and painting. Well, it's just what I like to do, but when picking schools, I remember it wasn't like in your case, it was private school, but it was family kind of saying, yeah, I can't make money with painting. What's next? You know, what's next choice?
Yeah.
And I actually also ended up going into animation.
program,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I can see how it helped me in some ways, but it is interesting. I guess it felt like maybe there was lack of material, and at the same time, almost like lack of proper guidance or mentorship, which is what you're providing. I think your students must be very lucky because they're getting this honest perspective. I try to be, when people ask me about this, I think in some ways try to be honest about what it is and like what this life is and what the actual pursuit is and what the day-to-day looks like. It's part of the reason why I like doing this podcast. So hopefully, someone like you or I at that age could listen. Well, if they find it, could listen to it and, just listen to this podcast and learn about it, because you don't get the information and you only learn more about it in the future, right? You end up learning it later on.
Yeah. So I tell them most of the times that the stuff that I'm telling you right now is the years of my work, years of my experience in school. Like, it's just like, I'm not trying to brag about what I did better than you, but then it was more to do it. Oh, I went through Emily Carr for 4 years to realize this. I went to industry and animation. I went to concept art. Basically I spent 10 years and realized, oh, I gotta do what I'm passionate about. Like, that whole concept. Don't worry about how much money you're making out of fine art. It's just like, be good at what you're passionate about. That's all. And then like mentality of it. Like, you have to have a thought that I have to work on my drawing a little bit, even an hour. Do every day, continuously doing it every day to keep yourself. That's your habit. If you don't have that habit, and I tell them, you gotta draw like you're eating. If you don't eat, you starve. If you don't draw, then you'll starve. You have to feel that sense of like starvation is somehow that you are pulling yourself to do it. Then that's a like self motivation.
Yeah.
It's really important to have that self motivation. And at the end of the day, did you have fun? Yeah. Like, did you like? I mean, sometimes we feel this too. Like, Ilya, like we spend like you probably do a whole full-time day job. And you go back to your studio, you work like 3 extra hour painting, and then even you go back home and then do a little bit of sketch for the next day's work. Then you go to sleep, you feel so fulfilled.
Definitely.
And then like you feel something very, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but then, I spend my day so well. And then like you go to sleep and you wake up the next day realizing that, and then compared to you spend whole day just like partying and drinking, all that, you had that momentary joy, but you feel so bad about yourself next day. Oh, I wasted this much work time.
Man, this is like the best pep talk. I'm so thankful that you're here. This is incredible to hear. And so I just too many questions, but I want to get back quickly. You said that when you were in Emily Carr first year, you thought you didn't want to quit because you'd be a quitter. Do you still have the same mentality? Would you have changed the past if you could? Meaning, like, do you think it was good that you stayed through it, or do you see it now that maybe staying there wouldn't be or quitting wouldn't be actually a failure the way you see it? What are your thoughts on it now?
I mean, if I quit early, there was a friend of mine who was kind of in the similar situation I was, and he wanted to do concept art so bad, and then so he quit at actually 1 semester left, the 4th year.
Oh wow,
that was crazy. he's and then my friend, I think it was Tyler. Tyler Bradley.
Yeah,
it's okay to mention names, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a Tyler. I think I get to meet him in the live drawing course, and then he was telling me, Emily Carr's not gonna help me anything. Like, I want to just quit, and I thought of it. Yo, you have just a semester left. You really want to do? Maybe he had a year or a semester. Man, I don't want to give wrong information out, but even then, like, I thought he was really brave. He quit.
Yeah.
And he didn't get the diploma out of it. But
so you didn't think of him as a failure. You thought of him as brave.
And then he's doing really well right now. He's a great concept artist.
Yeah,
and
he did get into the industry.
Yeah. So but then if I made the same decision with him, I could have gone to concept art industry and doing better. And then once I got into concept art industry, I suck so bad. Like I didn't know how to do. And then, I mean, previously I listened to podcasts of Graham and Andrew Doma. They're really good friend of mine too. But then like, we don't really get to talk to each other that as often. But then when I was back in the industry, like Graham, I worked with him together at the same. Yeah, when I got into Sequence.
Because I was looking at your portfolio.
Yeah.
Nice.
I went in Sequence. Graham and I just got into the same time. I think he came in one day before me, but or something like that. But then, compared to Graham, I didn't know anything. Graham actually know a lot of stuff because he was kind of experienced artist too. But then, and then he was a better position than I was. I was like kind of like junior position, almost like intern. Like it's just I was pretty much doing everything. Yeah. When they had to clean up, like animation clean up that stuff. Yeah. I actually like doing that better than like actually doing some concept artwork because I was bad. I was having a hard time. Like,
but you're still able to get into that studio though. So you already had a portfolio by then?
Yeah, I built up my portfolio. So if I come back to my history of it, like just to talk a little bit more about myself. So I went to Emily Carr, graduated from animation, and I animated. I was 2D animator. So I worked in like freelancing stuff for a little bit, and then I just didn't get paid well. I just hated job, and then actually one time I got to do something like this company. I don't want to name it, but then the company told me to do a job that it's not hourly pay. If you do it well, you get paid. So I just did a bunch of like I spent like more than an hour of course, and then like the director ended up saying, I can't pay you because you didn't fulfill the job. So I got really mad. I spent like 4 hours on it, right? So I was like, but then I did a little bit. You can't just ditch me from that. And then like he's like, no, that's how the industry's like. That's a common excuse, right?
God.
This is how it's like. Yeah. So I just, oh man, I don't want to continue working for this company. I quit. And then I was looking for, and then I realized that I shouldn't do any animation because that even animation job was for the mobile games and they're very repetitive, right? Cycle. You just like you change this guy's clothes like weapon and then you just do the same animation. You just have to follow that pretty much a constraint, which is juxtaposed to the idea of school. Like you have to be systemized, right? And I feel like I'm going through this again. Why am I wasting time doing this? I mean, and then I learned a little bit of it. I learned the negativity of that, which is good. So
meaning because that's what made you get out. Like you learned the
and then when you get out, you consider yourself once again as a failure. Like I don't want to. The term is harsh, but then I failed to stay there. But then that failure is one that got me back. I can't just be like this. I gotta come back to this. I gotta do it more. I gotta prove that. I cannot just be giving up because of this. Because I've seen a lot of my art friends who friends who I graduate with, and then people who I get to know through art school. They ended up not doing art. Most of them. And then so I had this. Kind of like I don't know. I wanted to work it out, and I didn't. But then I didn't want to do an animation job, so I got connected to like freelancing job. My daily routine was like I look up Craigslist every day in the morning.
Really?
Look for a job, and I send out resumes, and then like I teach. Because through the whole time I was teaching. I'm a private tutor.
Wow. So were you teaching while you were in Emily Carr or after?
Yeah, even from Emily Carr. Wow. I got this teaching job at the first year of Emily Carr. I was fortunate because I told you about like how secondary school in Korean community is so common that it's you make a lot of money out of that. Like there's a lot of money going, and the studio out there I was working for was making good money. Like they had like 30 students in the studio.
Did you have to work, or do you have to work to make money for school, or did you want to work?
Oh no, it was for school too. Like because I didn't get the support from my parents, so I had to. So they could have helped me, but I just didn't want to. I know that their situation. I didn't want to. I wanted to prove. Also, as I said, I want to prove to them that I can do all this by myself. It's not that. And then but then I had a hard time though. Like I was actually I don't want to. It's kind of like but there's so much to talk about. But if I go back to it, like I graduate and then I worked in the industry. I went out and then I worked for this freelancing gig, and sometimes I didn't get paid. Like they're saying like in the front, oh Jace, once the game is launched, you're gonna get a lot of profit out of it. We're gonna profit share. Yeah. We did. I went through all that. I went to do horrible things, and then so I didn't get I get paid 100 for my like 30 hours of job or something like that. Wow. And then like the game didn't get launched. So I did a little bit of that, or I get to work with this friend who said it's gonna be like a certain hourly payment, but then it didn't happen. But I don't care anymore at this point. At point of this time, but and then that's the sequence job is actually the first job ever as a like, and then also pay me well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I feel very grateful.
How many
that
years after your graduation was sequence?
I think it was 2012 I got into that. So I graduated 2009. So I struggled about
3
2
years.
years. Yeah, 3
yeah,
years,
2
2
years,
years, 2 years, and 3 years, and then I think Tyler was the one who recommended me.
Nice.
Tyler, yeah. So Tyler,
Thanks, Tyler.
recommended me. Yeah, Tyler's doing. Yeah, thank you, Tyler, if you listen to me. Yeah, but then, yeah. So and then he recommended me to the studio, and then they wanted
Wow.
somebody, so I got there, and then they did a test.
Yeah.
Actually, Sequence asked me to do a test. I don't know. Is it part of the NDA? I don't know whether I
No?
should publicize. Hey, they won't mind. It's such a
No,
long time
no.
ago, but. I remember because this is a funny story too. I want to talk about
Yes, please, let's go, man.
I
Oh,
had
this is exciting.
yeah, I had this. I got the test,
Yeah.
and then I don't think I did well. I felt that. I felt that I don't think I'm gonna make this
Mhm.
job. I get this like intuition, right? And then I got the Dan is just really good person and friend of mine too. Like we became really good friends. Dan, the producer back to time,
Mhm.
he sent me the email saying that. It was just like, casual email,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah.
can feel that I'm not gonna make it to, right? So I told him again to Dan that Dan, maybe can I do it one more time? I feel like
Wow.
I can do it well. But then the weird thing is, my family had planned a trip to Whistler,
Okay.
so we had to go. We paid for the ticket and everything, so we had to go. But then that's why I didn't have a tablet or like companion tablet.
Okay.
So I brought my PC and tablet and the luggage, and then I went there with it, and then I worked that. They wouldn't know. I never told anybody about this.
Wow,
But then,
dude.
so I went there in the Whistler. While my family was playing, just hanging out, I was in the hotel by myself, doing the assignment from and then I think I did better. That's the thing. Like if I do the second chance and I just like did the first one, I wouldn't probably make it. But then like me is trying so hard. Oh, this guy wanted to fulfill us. I wanted to meet the expectation. So, but then I didn't tell him that I went to Whistler to do it.
Should have told him. They're gonna feel so guilty.
No. But then like
Man, it's
yeah,
amazing.
and then that got me a job, like a first proper job ever.
Wow.
And that's how I pretty much got into all this. I think if I didn't do well, and if I just neglect that second chance
Damn,
and it
dude.
went for it, I don't think I'm here like who I am right now. I might
Wow.
be, I don't know, who knows, but I'll probably get other jobs too. But then like it was good. I learned a lot from Sequence,
Mhm.
art director. Graham talked about him too, like Andy West and that other
Mhm.
people like Ian, and all the people who I get to work with, like Eric and Christian. There's a lot of animators. I get to finally learn all this great,
Yeah.
like working environment, and then it was sort of priceless for me because
Mhm.
previously I didn't even get paid for doing all the
Yeah,
work
yeah,
and
yeah.
all that, but now I'm properly paid. So please don't keep me out. And then every day I was like, I want to stay here, but yeah, and then like but then I felt like I wasn't doing well the job, and so you gotta because we work for Halo. Come
Yeah.
on, like it's a big franchise game, and then I don't think
So
I
cool,
was
dude.
at that level set, and then probably Andrew got disappointed at me for a few times because I wasn't fulfilling the job well, but he taught me a lot,
Mhm.
so I get to overcome a lot. But then I got better every day, but then even if I get better next day, I still don't get to meet up the expectations.
But do you think? But so, man, there's so much information. But do you think you actually were not as good because I think you're a very harsh judge of yourself. And I think that's what makes you great. And the fact that you're working so hard it's because you push yourself so hard. Do you think? So when you say I was not doing the job so well, are you being objective, or
objectively?
are you looking at it or because? I think a lot of us are super harsh on ourselves like that. But do you?
I think, to be honest, I think I was good artist, like with the sort of a creative freedom or whatever. But I don't know how to execute that well.
The
You know what I mean?
technical
Yeah,
aspect, yeah.
technical aspect. Because even I still remember I was so ashamed of myself. I didn't know, like in Photoshop, the short key. If you press number, you can change the transparency.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was like, and then I pretend that I knew. when one of my coworkers said that, I was like, oh yeah, I know it. And then like I didn't know about it. So that's the level. Like that's where I was, and I learned a lot. I caught up a lot of stuff. I wanted to
fake it till you make it, man. I'm still learning so much about Photoshop even today.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I think I try hard on aspects of it. But then when I went through all that, yeah, regardless of the fact that I still think it's so much valuable, and I just had that in my mind that is it really what I want to do? Like, do you think? I talk to myself like Jace, do you think you really want to do this forever? Like, it's gonna be your career? Like, you have to be in the industry? And then I said no to myself. Well, the reason is at the time I was still teaching, and then when I came back home from work, because I was living in Surrey. My work was in downtown.
It's so far.
Like 3-hour commute. Like go back and forth, right? So I was like spending so much time. And then, I came back home from work and taught. I had some lesson after. I was like, I didn't know I was burning myself out. I was literally burning myself.
When
did
you
I was
find out?
I didn't stop. Like a workaholic. I just like taught and then like work in the industry. I was like, and then I came back, spending 8 hours of looking at monitors a whole day. You know how it's like. Yeah. And then I looked at the blank canvas, and then I'm probably making this quite dramatic, and then way more dramatic than how it also happened. But then it felt like the canvas was talking to me, like, Jace, I want to get painted. Yeah. So that's like, you're making into really good animation. You came back home from like burning out, like sensation, but you just came back. Oh, I want to paint. I painted it. Yeah. Like, I spent a whole day working, and I spent time painting, and I felt so good about the physicality.
Is that how you found out what you really wanted to do? Just because, right? The fact that you're working after full day of work kind of shows you what you really love, doesn't it?
I think that was meditating.
Yeah, that's what I find it as well. Yeah.
I think you probably do it because it feels very meditating.
And you and I are on the same page in so many levels. Sorry, keep going. Yeah,
you're so much better. But
nah, my God, stop it.
But then what I'm saying is that I felt something strong about that. I didn't know that I had this. Like, I didn't know I have this throughout the whole time, but I'd never been publicizing it because I don't want to consider myself a failure. Let's come back to the idea of failure. If I quit this job again, I'm a failure again, but then I don't want to be a failure 3 times. And then I think it's partially my problem that I constantly, sometimes I said I'm a harsh critic of myself too, but I don't want to I want to criticize myself. Why is this happening to me? So half of me wanted to paint, but half of me, it's like, Jace, don't quit it again. Right? But I mean, sequence situation, it was kind of like quitting, but then like they didn't extend the contact with me too. Like I said I'm really also busy with my teaching job, and somehow at the time my teaching job was doing so good, like so well. I get like drastic number of students, like a drastic amount of students. They get like more students coming in the studio. Wow. Because they realize I work in the industry too. Like, that's like kind of like your badge. Totally, you label yourself that, I worked in the industry. Well, I didn't want to make more money because of that, but then I just got more students wanting to learn, and then that was like, okay, so what should I do? I gotta decide whether I should try hard, keep myself in the industry where I do what I don't really want to do, kind of like and then opposed to you teach and you guide the student the way you want it now, and then you can paint. And because teaching, I can just work 5 hours a day or 4 hours a day, sometimes less and sometimes. So it's more flexible. So that was kind of like the similar situation as transition of full-time artist to freelancing artist, and then the amount of students that I could teach at the time, I was making good money. Okay. So
I imagine a lot of people have this kind of dilemma of, like you're saying, basically picking, do I do what is already working, or do I quit and do what I love a lot more? Yeah. At what point did you let go of this idea that stopping something is a failure, or do you still feel like it?
so after spending 10 years of that experimentation, like I want to say it was experimental.
Well,
But
way
then-
to find yourself. It's like
yeah, define myself. That's what that's what everybody has to go through.
Of course.
And then I wanted to think of it more theoretically. I came to the deeper question: what is the value of your work? Like, what's your subjective value? And then I think a lot of people nowadays are following the majority. How, like,
Yeah.
like their value is constructed by others. Like, they're very socially constructed.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I don't want that happen to me. Like, I see my friends making a lot of money or like driving BMW, Mercedes Benz, and they're bragging about it. And whereas I didn't want to do that. I wanted to brag about my art skill. I want to brag about how well I do as an artist. So that's the value. That's very subjectively constructed value. So when I was painting, when I started to work as a painter, I realized that it works somehow that maybe I didn't have to follow what everybody else says. I just have to do what I would love to
Dude,
do.
that's huge.
Yeah. So I mean, I was lucky enough to make that transition. So I did it. But then I don't just do it like a hobby. And that point I realized I gotta do this really. I gotta do this really passionately. And then also because of that, I look back to myself and then went over all the times when I thought about myself as a failure. And then because I failed 3 times, that I could come back where I am right now. Like,
Totally.
yeah. So it was all accumulation of the years of work that I went through, and then I still apply a lot of stuff that I do, and like
Exactly.
even fine art. Ilya,
Yeah.
fine art. Even like the stuff that you learn from Photoshop painting, digital painting, quick painting, it comes back
It all
to
helps.
it.
But that's what I mean. Why do you? That's what I feel like. Why do you call it failure? Because it's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Right?
So now
Yeah.
I don't want to think of it as a failure anymore, and I think it was needed. And then you need that failure to come. So, but then I think it's just how you word it, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
of course.
failure,
Yeah.
but then you
And
can
it's
always
what I
say,
guess that's what the word means. It's just I think it feels harsh because it's also depending on how you look at it, right? Because at the same time, like what you're saying is that it's a step that was necessary. So it's like maybe it is a victory in a way. Maybe
exactly,
it's
yeah,
because you did get to the place where you really wanted to do it. Where do you? Speaking of this, where do you get this crazy drive? Like you're working so hard, and it sounds like you're working so hard even before you got to the post-secondary to Emily Carr. How do you get that? Like, can you trace it back to where this came from?
I think very fundamentally it was coming from my parents' sacrifice. I don't want to sound cheesy and boring, but
No, but
yeah,
it's true.
my parents basically came here for me, like my brothers, and then they made a sacrifice, and then they struggle a lot. I mean, they don't know how to speak English at all when they came here, and then like my mom now is like speak so well. She works
Nice.
for. Yeah, I love what they have done to me. Like, it's just crazy how much sacrifice they made, and then I don't want to let them down. That's the core reason. Like, they sacrificed their life in Korea to come here. Same as Ilya, your family too, right?
Same,
They value it so much for me, and then like we came here, get this great education provided, and then all the time that I thought of myself a failure, it's just like it always kind of like an experimentation and learning stage, and then that all happened because of my parents and their sacrifice. And then one point I realized that, and then I move on to it. Like I talk to myself a lot of time. I mean, it's more theoretical that what is your true value, and then I just want to be happy, and then every day I want to be happy, and I want to leave my day at the maximum capability. And so if I become a better person tomorrow than yesterday, that's the whole goal of I don't plan something too ahead of time. I just my great motivation, my drive was just like work hard every day so you don't feel bad about yourself. And just like speaking of that, you yourself being starved by not providing any creative, like creation or art, then you somehow feeling. So if I don't paint for like a week, I'll be like, oh, I feel very weird about myself. Yeah. So I think I became at that point. That's how much I learned from that 10 years of troubleshooting.
I can relate to you so much about what you're saying. I remember when I had to make a decision of like stopping working in animation or as an animator rather. I remember that felt like it felt like quitting, and I can so that's what to me the words like you're saying failure kind of resonate because it felt like and it was my first big change in career too. So I can see how like it's just this idea of that this thing you worked so hard to do now you're not gonna do it. Like what are you doing? You know? And I remember, yeah, that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah,
But
I think also because you have that, you try harder because you don't want to. You don't want to get. You don't want to get to regret. Like you don't want to regret the fact that you quit.
especially because you're stepping back, right? It feels like now you're going back, you're backwards, and yeah. So at this point, do you feel like you have you found your purpose? You know, after these 10 years, do you think you know what it is you really want?
I think I'm at the. I don't want to say perfect. I don't like the word perfect because nothing is perfect in the world. But then I think I'm very much satisfied with who I am right now. And I mean, there's
That's
a
huge.
lot. There's always a room to learn and stuff. But I think I'm happy compared to the guy who barely get paid by doing animation work
By those
for 3
assholes.
hours. No,
No, it's
yeah,
good.
yeah, I understand the circumstances, but to
No, man.
where I am, like I think, yeah. I mean, I see a lot of great younger artists right now. Like it's just, like you can see it's so easy to find. Like ArtStation,
yeah.
even ArtStation, like there's
So
tons of
overwhelming.
artists and everything. Yeah, and then I know that I won't be able to compete with them. Like it's just so different level. Then you gotta find your niche. Like
Yeah.
it's not that like that niche doesn't necessarily coming from you being differentiated by others. It's more to do it. What did you really like to do? Like your niche is coming from what you love to do. Like I love doing this. Once you feel like you love doing this, so you can do this forever. I just found it. That's a value. Like it's not how much money you're making. But
Oh, it's really the biggest thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because I don't think there's not a lot of people who can probably say honestly the way you're saying now that you're happy and you found what you want.
And maybe I'm romanticizing the idea of it. Maybe I'm romanticizing it to the people who are actually starving, like those artists who are not making enough money. I think I'm kind of romanticizing the idea of starvation, or like like the part of it as a motivation. Some people actually literally physically, go through the problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem. That's why I'm at the place where I can easily say. So I don't want to romanticize the idea, but actually what I'm trying to say is, like you try so hard on one thing for a long term. Like I've been teaching for more than 10 years. Then I became good at it. I became good at teaching, but it's very subjective teaching. Like I teach very different than everybody else does. Maybe there's my own way. That's niche that I found. And then that same thing happened to me as an artist. Wait, I don't want to get judged by someone. Like if someone who's super good at art come to me and then, oh, your work is still bad, Jace, then that doesn't really differentiate me. Like that doesn't really differentiate me as an artist. You know what I mean? Like it's because somebody else judging me, good or bad.
That shouldn't define you.
Yeah,
Yes, no, I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
now I realize I don't have to get I don't have to get judged by others to think that, oh, Jace, your work sucks, but doesn't really make me different. Like I get to talk to my really close friend Jeremy Henriksen. He's a fine artist too. You know him too, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Jeremy got just tons of hating comments. He got like
He laughs at them
yeah,
too.
Yeah, he laughs at it. And he likes it, but then those negative comments are signs of fame too. Like you have become famous in certain.
That's how you
point
know
of
you're
time.
popular and people hate you. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. But then he doesn't care about
Yeah.
people saying this is shit or this is good.
Yeah.
But then same thing too. Like I get criticized a lot too. Like I get feedback, but I listen to people's feedback because I want to also troubleshoot because I never be perfect. So that's the whole idea.
It's amazing, and it's very fascinating to listen to you talk about is because the whole idea of is basically what you're saying is that it's almost like you don't feel like you have to compare anymore. It's like what you're talking about. You see people on ArtStation who are crazy good, but you don't have that need to feel like in your mind compete with them almost. Like
Yeah, and then
that's how I'm reading it. But because you clearly found what you really enjoy, right?
Yeah, I mean, but then sometimes people get motivated by looking at greater art. But you compare yourself to one of the great artists in like ArtStation, and you realize that guy's only 20 years old, and then you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
But then that doesn't really do much of your own work. You feel bad about it.
It's not really productive, right?
Yeah, it's just like you complain about it and all that. It doesn't really change it the way you do. Like but so that's the thing. Like my art style got changed throughout the years, but then I was more into once when should I talk more about that too? Like I came,
about
yeah.
everything,
So
dude.
I
This is the
came
best
back.
interview ever. I don't have to say anything.
Yeah, but then like but I came back, basically came to this fine art world. I mean, thanks to Drew too, like for Ilya too, like thanks to Drew Young, he
What's up,
dragged
Drew?
me to he dragged me to Snag. I still appreciate so much. The Snag was my first live painting event ever,
Yeah.
and I did that, and
Same.
then like that's how I got to do like the gallery with you, the feature show.
That's
it was
right.
just having
Stefan
having
was
a
just
great
on the
time.
podcast.
It was like and then it was a really great time that I had. I learned so much of that. Like I felt like I was in school. It was only like 3 days preparing art,
Yeah.
but I learned so much of it. I get to learn, how other people work and all that stuff. That being able to expose yourself to that, I think I kind of get to compare myself. Like, but then by the time when I was doing the feature show and then the Snag, all that stuff, my work was more hyper real. Like
Yeah.
I was going like I do a very repetitive small brush strokes,
Yeah.
and then I somehow got dragged to another really great artist friend, Bill Higginson. He dragged me to art battle,
Yeah.
and then I was doing
Dragged you.
Yeah, dragged me. I
You
mean,
didn't
yeah,
want
I wanted to do. He didn't drag me. He just like persuade me to do a 20. But then I didn't really like the idea of 20 minutes initially because my work won't be as good at 20 minutes. Cause I spend a lot of time on my one single.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember that art show, and actually,
You won that thing, so I just got to do it too. Ilya, you did it first, so you won the competition first.
you're
and
talking
then-
about
yeah,
art battle?
yeah, art
Yeah.
battle, yeah. So.
But I was speaking about the art show feature we did together. Actually,
yeah, feature.
I was looking through my Vimeo account just the other day, and we hired Umbrella Pro. I got my friends to film the show, but I was watching the video. I love it that it's a little time capsule. If you're listening, you want to check it out. I think you can just on Vimeo probably look up featured art show.
Yeah.
I think it was 23rd. What year was it? 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
2013, 12, and 14 was 13.
It was at
yeah,
Aiden Gallery. Look it up.
Yeah,
But watching the video is so cool. And there's some close-ups of your work, and you got that hyper-realistic portraits. I love it as a time capsule because I think it was such a good time. I remember it's like you're saying those days that we're spending preparing for it, and you and I did and Turby we did a Turby, right?
Yeah, Turby. Three
did
of
a
us
mural
did the mural together. Yeah.
There's something about this kind of innocent naivete being a little bit. So at least for me, I don't know about you. It's like you're saying that was my first big art show and kind of
Me too.
learning.
Yeah.
I guess you and I were.
That's my
learning
first public exposure ever.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and then so that time I learned so much, and then I feel like it doesn't it didn't really matter how much I sell from that show. Like it's just like I sold quite good, but then I don't think I cared about it. I just that opportunity got me
The
so much,
experience was
and
huge.
then it just branched out to so many other opportunity. But throughout if I look back and see I was pretty much yes man to everything. When anyone approached to me doing this, I would say yes, because it's I value the idea of doing art and getting money.
This is huge advice. Right?
Yeah,
I think for a lot of
yeah,
people,
yeah.
this is probably.
I mean, you gotta be careful, yes man, or you gotta be when you're starting point, you gotta be yes man to a lot of things.
Mhm.
You don't know how that leads into a different opportunity.
Totally.
So I did the art battle 20 minutes thing,
Mhm.
and then that time when I realized, I can use my ambidextrity. I
Mhm.
use both ends. That's my thing. I was born left, and then my mom forced me to use right because it's culturally it's the right thing to be right. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so I was in school. I was doing more using right hand. I was secretly using left for drawing and
Wow.
doodling. So throughout the whole entire my life, most of the life I was ambidextrous in terms of drawing. So I felt 20 minutes. How can I show something?
Yeah.
So I decided to do double hand. That's the first time I did, and then people liked it a lot as a sort of part of a performance, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
I showed it as a.
That's what I mean. I love the fact that you're basically going through all my questions without me even asking you my questions. It's amazing. No, it's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
This is
It's a good transition, right? Yeah.
dude. It's amazing. Yeah, no, this is definitely. But I had one of the questions written down is because I felt like when I also tried it out, it felt like preparing for kind of this. It's so much performance. It's not the same as being in your room and spending 20 hours on the painting. It feels like a performance. Did you feel like you had to prepare it for it differently than you would for a normal painting?
Yeah.
Right?
Light painting, you have to be. I'm very different because I decided to do it simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. So my painting becomes symmetry, because
Yeah.
left and right needs to be same, because I'm painting exactly the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think twice at the same time. I gotta. There's some artists who does different things at the same time too, but I
Yeah.
gotta do it that same thing.
Yeah.
But then it somehow has to be, well proportionized and everything.
Totally.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really hard.
And so I want to ask you also, because it feels like, at least because you've been doing a lot of live painting and being at these events. Do you feel like the ambidextrous painter has become your identity?
Yeah, I even call myself as an ambidextrous painter, but then because it is something very niche, right? Like it's
Mhm.
you don't get to see that quite often. There's a bunch of artists who are doing that, trying, but never be able to execute it in a way that, like I got this comment from one guy that they stop this double hand thinking because it doesn't really do to the quality of work, and it's kind of partially true. Like, because I can paint better when I just use one hand.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, it's because I can,
Better or
like,
different?
better in technicality of it. Like,
Okay.
technical wise, I can paint better, more professional. Because like, it's. But then like I tell that to the person, even like it's a challenge. You're actually like kind of repressing yourself, but that repression is a part of troubleshooting, and it's almost like my life. Like I had this like repression and then challenge. I went around like doing all this stuff, and then like I think I got better every time when I overcome. Like overcome that failure. And I want to say again that was a failure, and then same thing. Like if I do it, that's why initially I did this series called Vertical Obsession, because I only paint with vertical brush strokes, or like only line work that are vertically going, and then having a sense of repression was kind of a challenge. But then that's how we all live in life. Like you living in a life without repression, you are very much naive and vulnerable to, like, you don't feel anything to go over. Like if you are, I mean, life is going through constant pain, and somehow, like, you think about it, right?
Yeah.
But then I it sounds really pessimistic, but this is actually real. Like once you're born, you're going through the pain every time, and then when you die, pain is finally gone. But then, like, that's what I'm saying. It's just, but then that pain is inevitable.
Yeah, so you gotta embrace it.
Yeah. So embracing it, and then the accepting it, like every nature of it, and then that's why I do it ambidextrously. Is kind of like putting myself a struggle, but then that also in other way around, give more entertaining to the viewer.
Okay, I see. Are you concerned with the fact that has become your personality, or are you embracing it? Or I mean, not personality, your identity, the way people see you. Like,
yeah, I think I like that, because, but then I don't want people to just judge my art as in like, oh, Jace is only light paint now. I do a lot of different stuff, right? So I can still do a concept, but then the fact is, I don't do any concept art for a living, like now making money, but I love the nature of it. I love the like compositional like value, and like going through all this like different color, and then designing is a really like whole core idea of design is basically troubleshooting. Like so you are designing something that people never seen before, which is like you doing something, kicking something innovative. Like you gotta be innovative. So that's what I'm saying. I will develop myself more into the level where I'm not just ambidextrous. So I want to say that I've been saying that as my ritual, like my ritual as into the representation of a, how I work, a representation of how my ambidextrity is, part of the nature and a part of the world, that how everybody lives in the world like that. One side is realistic, one side is ideal, and one side is left, one side is right. It literally left and right, but then leftist and right, and liberal and conservative.
Yeah.
Like every nature, it's like yin and yang. Like everything
exactly.
has to be balanced. So I am showing the balance. My work is a representation of balance. So that's how I want to say, as in like artist. I mean, it's really to title myself an artist. I don't really like to call myself artist.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's just my thing. So I rather want to say painter or drawer, but I don't know. Like,
what's the difference to you?
It's the same thing. Like you wording the failure as a failure, and then like but
okay.
I think it's more to do with word. But then, I mean, artists gives them so much of weight on that. I don't want, like it's a burden to myself. But then, like I think it's just myself. Like it's just very much of my own idea that you are living with the burden, and you gotta accept that burden as a part of yourself too. But then at the same time, I don't want to weight it too much. I don't want it to control myself over, like, because I'm not only doing that for a burden. And then once coming back to the idea, I do this for myself. I do this for love, about the passion that I'm doing. So
it's amazing that you found it. How much of Emily Carr education has helped you? Because I feel like you just did this amazing conceptual speech about this whole art thing.
I think it helped me a lot. Yeah.
In that way, okay.
I mean, but then, of course, my English got better, of course.
Thanks,
and then I got to think more conceptually. Because I still remember one class was. I hated class so much, but it was called creative process. But no, I want to mention it though, because I hated it, but at the same time, if I think about it again, it actually beneficiating a lot. I mean, just the way of thinking, like thinking creatively, it's important. Like so that really like initiated me. So that class, John Warchek, I still remember the professor's name. He's really famous in Emily Carr, but he gave us assignment saying, even before we met him, like he gave us like really like weird assignment, consider yourself and consider moon and bring the moon to the class. So very conceptual. Very conceptual. You can't just be anything. Like you can't just bring anything. But that's, I think at the time I just like, what the hell is this about? Like, but then I think that's the whole thing. Like what Emily Carr values a lot is that side of it too. Like they still, I mean, Emily Carr is better every year, that they are doing a lot, providing a lot of the technical side of it too. But then the value of conceptuality, because the art could be, I mean, art somewhat to me is like a business. I'm not working for anyone. And then the way you BSing it, the way you conceptualize it, the way how you wording it, and how you sort of put it to the certain criteria where people kind of get convinced or buy you, then like that's your willingness and that's your own challenge. You got to go through all that by yourself. There's not like your assistant doing it. There's no other one doing it for you. You got to do it everything by yourself as an artist. I think it's really good for people who are just about to start art, like art, being an artist. Like I want to say, like that's why I don't want to even entitle myself as an artist, because being an artist it's so much. It's so hard to so hard to just say as an artist.
But also, it's like, what does it even mean, right? Each person is going to be a different thing.
And then everybody, I mean, just person who walk around, they can just call themselves artists. Like an artist to me, it's so like the word. It seems so like valuable and so much bigger than what it is. But at the same time, other side of it is like that you can easily be an artist. Like there's no boundary of it. Like, but then that's what I'm saying. But then what I'm trying to say is there's so much to do as an artist. Then. Do you really fulfill everything? Are you doing well with every aspects of it? It's also very subjectively decided.
Exactly. It's depending on who's like saying the criteria.
Yes.
So just a second ago, you said that you said BSing it, or like when you're explaining a concept, and maybe that's also a fine line of like, are you just making it all up, trying to come up with a cool idea, or if you actually mean it? And the reason I asked you whether Emily Carr education helped, because well, like what you just said was very honest in it, but it felt like you're talking about your thesis almost. It feels very honest. But I guess my question is, do you find that you use it in your own work, like you said, because you work for yourself right now, and when you do get work, you will have to sell your idea, whether it's true and you believe in it, or whether you're kind of doing it just to get the job. So do you end up finding that education helped specifically in that criteria?
I think that's a really good question. You're so good. But then, that's what I'm saying. Like, so the education actually subconsciously or unconsciously, whatever, like it helped me. Like, I think it cultivate me. Like, it's sculpting me, the Jace that I'm right now. But I don't really want to say I got direct help from it.
Okay.
Because I didn't value it at the time. That's exactly why I said it to my students, that you got to go to school when you really feel that need. I want to go to Emily Carr now so bad. Okay. But then back then, I didn't have to go to Emily Carr. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not about time. Like a lot of people from fresh from high school, they want to go to school.
Yeah.
But then they want to go to school because to fulfill their parents, like a parents' expectation. They're going there because they feel like, oh, I can beat something if I go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But then no, like now I want to go to Emily Carr to conceptualize BSing more of this value, and then I'll probably get a lot of advantage out of it. Back then, I wasn't like that. Then I got to do a lot of these things that I didn't want to do. I was forced to do, only try to get an A. Then you are putting yourself in the system, and then you become more systemized to the system. You are losing who you are.
Yeah. But do you believe then it's better?
Better once you know.
Better to go when you know.
Yeah, better to go on you. And then coming back to your question, that so it actually helped me. But then that's what I'm saying. I don't want to just say it's a BS, because at the first time I want to entitle myself as a better artist. Like, and I want to be something just like easily put together. I want to value myself as something bigger. I think it's really important. Like your great motivation is to consider yourself as a great thing. Otherwise, you're lacking it, because you don't. Yeah.
You're not pushing yourself.
Yeah. If you don't value yourself as much, that's why that BSing part is how to value yourself as an artist, or whichever that you want to do, because that part is needed. I mean, even you have a same art. Yeah. And then if one has a really good conceptual value, but their technicality of it, technical wise, they're the same. Yeah. Then obviously people will buy.
Yes, of course, especially in fine art. Oh, maybe even concept
art. I didn't get like one live painting event. I explained my concept so like in the public with microphone. I told to everybody, and then I sold two of my painting out of it. If I don't really talk about it, people don't. Like, sometimes the talking part actually does really good job of it.
Of course, people want stories, but that's why I think that's why it really seems to me that in the fine art, especially when you're, it's like you said, when you're selling your own paintings, there's nobody trying to sell it for you, or just that's what it helps a lot. But it's almost like until you know that you need that skill, it's like you said, you do think of it as BS, right? Because until you realize that, oh no, it's actually not only you need it to create work that's more meaningful, but also at the same time you need it because otherwise it's just a technical painting. Yeah. Then you don't exactly value it.
So you need that BSing part, but it only you can. Yeah, but then BSing part is needed because if you be able to, and like bring yourself to that level, like you have this like part that you sort of like romanticize or blurping or like bragging, like you make it so much bigger than what it is, and then you put it in the first place, and then you later developed it until it actually make it happen. Yeah. But then a lot of artists don't do that. Like a lot of artists or a lot of people who call themselves artists, they just neglect the part. Yeah. Like then they don't really get to the part. They don't want to. Then at the end, it just remain as BS. Yeah. But then it remain as actual concept of your work because you're very genuine to it. I can't say this forever because I'm very genuine to the idea of it, genuine to that art making process and overcomeness of it. The idea of how I do it at the same time and do it ambidextrously, all that stuff. I do it because I sincerely love it now. Like I sincerely value that, and then that's a. Like I value it because, as you said, it's a part of my identity.
And I guess that's what makes you well-rounded rather than just one or the other. Was it hard for you to let go of the hyper-realistic work and then move on into maybe more into impressionistic or abstract work? Because once again, I think that must have been at a certain point an identity of yours, right? Or an aspect of who you were. Yeah. Was it a conscious choice to move away from it?
I think it was more, partially more forced. I don't know. I don't want to say it's forced, but then like after I did more live painting, I cannot pull out hyperreal stuff from 20 minutes or hour.
Of course, well,
so that's why. Yeah. So I did that, and then like it's kind of sad and good, but my most expensive painting is still my 2-hour live painting.
Really?
So like you think about it, like I tell it to a lot of my like artist friend too, like people. The reason is that live painting it's beneficiating. Because people witnessing your process, and then they were actually part of it when they were being made, so they value it. So audience actually want to spend more money on something that they witnessed from the starting point to the end. Whereas you walk into a gallery, you like the work, but you don't never seen how this guy did it. Then you don't like people. And then also my work is a reasonable price, like my like hyperreal work. But then they like it, but they don't wanna buy in a way that I don't know. Like it's just so hard. Like that's why it was. I wanna say it's more forced because
Interesting.
once I realized that this is more market, you gotta care about it. Because I at the one earlier when I was emerging artist, I was thinking about how my work getting exposed.
Yeah.
How my work gets the value as what other artists do. So when that happened, like I feel like, oh my god, should I then change the style into more of this, because maybe people like this more, and then I can like price it a little lower too, right? So I could sell it well, but then that's what I'm saying. That was also part of the troubleshooting. So I realized it was selling better, so I kind of did it. But at the same time, I feel a little bad about myself that, oh, what I thought the whole process of it was initially, maybe I'm contradicting myself, because I wanted to do for myself, but then I'm actually caring about it getting sold more, like the monetary value of it. So I kind of get awake from it, like, oh, like wait a minute, I shouldn't just do live painting. Live painting format should be live format itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more to do it now. My style could just be instantly changing by the circumstances. So if I need to paint in an hour, we do a lot of live painting too, Ilya. Well, I do this kind of style. But then if I staying home or staying in my studio working, I want to see how far I could go. So I developed that. Yes, but to be honest, I think I'm still kind of like finding my style. I don't think I'm never be. I don't want to say I have coined that. I don't think I haven't coined that style yet. I think I'm going with very different styles, and then I still want to see what fits. But then that's the whole thing. Like I don't want to just do one thing. I like me being versatile, but also like being able to do many different things, and that's why I don't want to stop teaching. I've seen a lot of teaching is quite consuming. Like sometimes it's very. I mean, not only physically, it's very emotionally. Like you care about one person.
Well, especially if you put yourself into it, right? I wanted to quickly, before I move to teaching, I want to ask, because you started considering, realizing that some paintings sell and some don't, depending on how you treat your painting and what you put into it. You said it started dictating your choices, and so you were kind of wondering if that was the kind of right thing to do or not. These days, when you decide to make a painting, whether it's in public or in your studio, how much of that thinking is in your head to make sure to make a painting that people will like, that will sell?
Yeah, it's a big portion of it, but then because I think I'm better than before, better than when I was emerging to the scene.
Okay.
I don't have to worry too much about it now, because I care about the quality of work more. Like, is it gonna sell? Like, I think about it. Like, you imagine wonderful things when you paint. Like that's what I love about action of painting. Like when you paint, you think about, oh, this painting will get me so famous. Your painting gets me like so much money or whatever. Like you can think of whatever the heck you want to think of. Then that's the part where you're enjoying it so much that you feel good about it. You don't just paint and say, oh, this painting sucks and this painting not gonna help me out. And you don't think about. I'm very positive person, like very optimistic. Optimistic in a way that I thought about the whole concept very pessimistic. You know what I mean? Like I thought about, we will die tomorrow. We could die tomorrow, right? We could die tomorrow.
Yes.
That's the whole concept of it is very pessimistic. That's why I want to leave well today. I want to think everything possibly positive at the moment, right? So that's the way of reliving it. So, and when I think about it, I just think all these great things about my painting, and then
you're just in the moment.
Yeah, and then like that dictates the style rather than, oh, this will sell better. I think this is something this guy would like. Or this is something like people. It's not like you prepare a portfolio to getting into art school, because you're preparing a portfolio to the particular school because they want someone. That. And then also, if you're preparing portfolio to getting into industry, oh, I want to go to this company. I need to build my portfolio into that way. So you gotta like your style needs to be very much, hybridized. Like a mixture of a little bit of you and a little bit of that company. You do all that, but then now it's like, oh, like I gotta do. And then that's what I'm saying. I try to extract my emotion. Like, am I being really genuine? So I don't really paint every time. Like I don't think of it as I gotta go paint as a part of my daily routine. I paint and draw. But then when I work on my like piece, like it's call myself as a piece, it's different. Like you can just do a like practice work, but
Of
then
course,
like
yeah.
your actual piece needs to be very genuine to yourself.
So these days, would you say that your work is most honest to yourself? Like,
Yes,
is that the
exactly. Honest to myself, and I feel very me in it. But then that
Yeah.
me could just be, like mixture of everything too.
Of
but
course. But when you make a painting, you don't make a painting because you saw, like, someone make something cool, so you want to be like them. You make
no,
that's-
it's not like that. Yeah, but maybe that could be. I think I'm still a student. Like I'm still
Mhm.
learning a lot of things. I still want to execute how to draw a human figure better. I want to
Yeah.
do a portraiture with the different lighting. I mean, you think about this constraint and very, like, didactic. I don't want to say didactic, but then very, like commonly known
Mhm.
technicality. I don't get obsessed with that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you know you grew up.
yeah.
Because to me, yeah.
But still, like you need to do well. Like
of course.
But that's why I talked with my friend Jeremy a lot of times too. But he's fine art too. But his work is getting abstracted, in a lot of sense that we talk about this all the time. Is it better? What can I say? Yeah, is it better that you learn all of your technicality as possible and go back to abstracting it, or is it better that you starting with abstraction art? Because
Mhm.
me and Jeremy didn't start as abstraction. Even you
Yeah.
too. Your like strokes could be abstracted, but not necessarily. Like it's not just a pure mark. It still has to be some part of that, depiction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of
Yeah.
a representational
Yeah,
painting, right?
representation of painting. So, isn't it is it really effective way of doing abstract right away, or versus you got to do more abstract,
What do you
purely
think?
abstract? I still don't know.
You don't know?
I don't
Okay.
know. We talked about it all the time, but I don't know. Then we just bring up the conversation to do what you love to do.
Of course. That's what. Well, because in the end, like you said, everybody dies and nobody cares. I think what, if I'm honest, I think what bothers me usually is when it doesn't feel genuine. It's like when I see that's personal. I don't know if it's right, but when I see someone doing something because it's either gonna sell or because they think it's gonna succeed, I think it kind of bothers me rather than when they know that's what they believe in, it's the most genuine self. Then you can't help but accept it because this person has no they have
Yeah.
no better way to express themselves than this way, and this also feels in the same way, like you're saying, calling someone an artist. What does that mean? I think when you talk about this too much, it goes back to and it's what is it? What is art? Kind of, and that's why it kind of becomes frustrating. But it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to say that it's better to get that background, but then again, I don't know.
Yeah. Me
doesn't
too,
matter
too,
what-
because
yeah.
that's the
That's where it
path that I
came from.
walked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it came from. So, but then we cannot just say that. Yeah, to every, but there's some artists, some like great abstract artists who never done, fit like the technical way of learning. Like they never get that too.
But also part of this problem, part of the problem of defining who's a great artist is usually it's defined by who pays for their artwork, and so we think someone is successful because there's rich people spending a lot of money on their art. Where if you track back the history of them becoming famous, it could be, well, you probably knew someone, you got in the right gallery, someone.
I think we're living in that period where
Exactly.
I read this article saying that your originality of work doesn't define the quality of work. It's more to do it. Your artwork sells because of your friends. That's because I think it's more to do it. Who do you hang around with?
And
that's
where do you live, right? Exactly.
I think that's exactly how consumeristic society is like, and we are consumerism based and living in that world that where we are kind of categorized into different what is it level of it's people,
of
rich
course.
people, and there's a huge gap in rich and poor, but also at the same time what I'm saying is that even art, the original quality itself is same. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes I paint in this light painting for my painting sold for 3K, and then one live event I get my painting, it doesn't even get sold for $200. So this is very much to do with the circumstances, I think, but that's really apparent to me now, because I have experienced it. But that shouldn't let you down. I thought of it as a kind of a disappointing element of it, but that's why you don't have to worry about who would like this one? Like that's why you could just enjoy for yourself.
It's
Then,
difficult,
yeah,
but it's
then-
hard to.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's hard to let
but
go
yeah.
of, especially when you realize it's out of your control. I think that is what that's a tough thing to learn, knowing that no matter how hard you work, you may still not succeed in your
like a
eyes.
Van
Whatever,
Gogh.
whatever success, exactly,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
success is, and I think that's part of the reason. I'll be honest, it's part of the reason why for a while, I like the rules of concept art world versus fine art world because they're more defined.
Yeah.
And even though getting a job is still so much about who you know and how you know, but there's higher chance of you succeeding in that world because if you can paint and draw, people will see it, don't get you. Where in fine art, like in this kind of art gallery world, you can be the best freaking painter in the world, and nobody will care. And and then versus someone who just, I'll be very pessimistic. It's not a real example. Versus someone who just threw some paint together. They could.
I know what you mean.
And that's why it's hard to let go of. Maybe it's easier when you have a steady life and you're, like you said, you're not starving. Maybe that's easier to accept. But I think it's got to be a lot harder when you're trying so hard and yet it just doesn't
more
work.
to do your own conscious. Like what does that matter to you at the end of the day?
Exactly.
That's why it's
and how
just
you
like-
judge yourself, right? What do you think? And that's honestly, I remember having troubles with I want to talk to you about this. I remember I was having troubles about the live painting event because I remember like personally feeling like it became so much more of a spectacle rather than a true representation of what my art was.
Yeah, me too. A lot of times too. Yeah.
And but it seems like you found ways to in your head to kind of put them into different categories almost. It's like you're saying what you do outside of studio is very different what you do in studio. So as long as you're aware of that, I think you can easily do it and be happy with what those results are.
I think it's like I don't know. It's a good example, but I think I can say like you're hanging out with different friends.
Yeah,
you know, sometimes you hang out with your like very intellectual side of your friend and who you have to talk more high vocabs and stuff. But then sometimes you can just be with your friend who from high school. You can just like, you know, curse throughout the whole day. You know what I mean? Like yeah. So it's like you can be like that. Like I said it like I said I was quite yes man in the beginning of the stage where I didn't know, I didn't know the consequences of just saying constantly yes. But at the same time, I learn a lot from, like, there's always good and bads, right? So I hang out with this bunch of friends. I learn so much of, like, being that level, like, being that intellectuality. But then, like, whereas you have that casual conversation with somebody you from high school, there's also value you learn from it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, artists like that. So you live painting in this event.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, I'm so like well-known artist. I gotta like wear a mask saying, oh, I'm super well-off artist. Whereas you can be in this event, oh, I'm just casual hanging out. I don't really care. I'm just like, you know, I'm just painter. Who cares, right? Like
You have a very, very healthy way of looking at it. I like it.
I think that's how it's been like, and then that's I think the way of. I mean, because at the end of it, it's the same thing as how you sort of criticize yourself compared to this great younger artist in the art station. You just looked at constant, like, bursting of art, like, that's crazy, constantly, every day, like, so many good arts coming out, but then, like, somewhat you think about it, they look, like, it's quite similar. You know what I mean, like, too, right? Then the reason why it's so similar is everybody's following them, like, that majority, like, trend.
So how were you able to let go of that? I think most people, almost everyone out there.
I think that's easy answer because I sucked because I don't think I wasn't fulfilling any of.
But you let go of that pressure somehow. You let go of the fact.
Because I realized that I would never be able to catch up. Maybe I'm not humbly saying that, but then just like I don't think I have that much. I will never be able to bring that passion back.
But it's not. But that's different versus like eventually not wanting it. Because I think those are two different.
Right. Yeah.
But do you think it's because?
I think that's why I replaced that wanting part to something else. I want to be like this. I want to be like, let's say I want to be like Jace the way I've been like, but then I want to get better at that stage. Like rather than, you know, like implying other great artists' element to me and then somewhat mixing really well and then becoming something else. But it's really hard. You remember, like, when I teach my students, I tell them to always copy first too. Like you just have to look up your great artist, but then me too. I think I need to copy all the time. I still copy. I still like look up, and then when I practice, I just do find a good painting that I found from Instagram or Facebook or Google. Then I just like try to mimic the style of it. And
Mm-hmm. I understand how eventually you have to become yourself, and that's definitely the hardest part of figuring out who you want to be. And that's why I really love, you talked about this 10-year journey by yourself, and then realizing what you actually want. I try to ask every guest about, whether they know themselves, because that's probably the most difficult part is like figuring out what it is you want to do, and then I guess eventually letting go of the pressures of the outside world or the art world that's kind of tells you who to be, especially depends on the community you hang out at. Like I work at a animation studio. There's a bunch of rules of like what a cool concept artist is, and I get
maybe because I don't get as much influence from surroundings, so you are working in that environment, whereas I'm like free off. Like I don't really get to.
But you can still go on ArtStation and see it.
Yeah,
So then eventually have to find out what it is, like what your standards of a good artist are, so that instead of comparing yourself to someone, you in your mind where to go. So maybe like along those lines, maybe what I should ask is, how do you define what a good artist is, so that you can model that, so you can model yourself to be that? Meaning, like, so if you didn't describe yourself, but when you look up to other people, if you do, who do you find to be successful? Because whether you're not looking at other artists as examples anymore, I think it's part of human nature to have a goal to strive towards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think to answer that, I have to kind of go back to where I said before. I mean, I think you're putting yourself into a task of becoming something else that you feel like. I mean, let's say you have somebody who you want to be.
Yeah.
And then you look up to it, and then you copy, mimicking the style of it, and you want to be like that. That's the whole task for you.
Mm-hmm.
You put it into a package of tasking.
Yeah.
But then once the task is, you couldn't do it, then it's considered as a failure. Which I thought initially, just talking about it, like myself becoming a great animator, if I packaging it as my task, then I took it as a failure, right? But then that's why I say now, I don't care about it as a failure anymore, as I said, right? So I'm not super conscious of it even. Like, like packaging it together, and then like, saying that, oh, you know what I'm saying? Right? So, totally So maybe I'm less aware of that, but maybe that could be that could be a bad thing. I don't know. I don't even want to say it's a good or bad, but then.
Well, it feels like you've let go of that constraint and you found freedom, because I think all it comes down to is kind of like you said, are you happy? Because what else are you gonna this is gonna get probably like too philosophical, but
but doesn't mean that you slack off, doesn't mean that you shouldn't try hard, but that's I still do what I do. So what, maybe another question would be, so what are you working towards? What are your goals now? How do you see yourself improving, and what do you plan towards in your future? I think my first goal, and then as I said before, I don't really plan things ahead, right? I'm like very spontaneous too. But then I like to, just like the podcast too, like your theory of doing this, like it's just really similar to the way I teach students. Like I'm not teaching or guiding them in a better direction because I want to make more money. I just want people to know. Like I want people who went through the similar situation, that they want to, like, if I had someone like me at my earlier age, like when I was 20, if I have someone like me and myself right now, I could learn a lot from him. You know what I mean? But then I didn't have that. Yeah. I was so lost. At some point, I didn't know any advice from that. Like, that's why you're doing this too, right? Yeah, exactly. So my goal is that's why I opened up my new studio in Burnaby, around the brand new station, and doing I wish to do a lot of creative practices there, and then getting a lot of people getting connected, because I realized it even like because I've known a lot of people, I got made a lot of friends, and I've been different place to place. I can't bridge them. I'm also actually kind of doing it. I bridge other art, like people who are needing art. I get connect them. I think that's what I really feel. I feel good about myself doing that. Like I think I could be a good bridge for everybody to get together. And second goal is to be, like it's more to do my work. It's like same as every other artist. How can you be better? But then that's the thing. Like commonly, you gotta care about how well you can sell your work, so you don't have to worry about it. If you, but because I made a good amount of money last year, but it's always up and down. Like you make as an artist, you make a lot of money one month, another month you don't really sell anything. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a drastic up and down. How can you make that sort of averaged out, or how can it be more constant? So that I don't have to fully. I mean, at this stage right now, I don't really care about money. But then still, it doesn't mean that I don't care because I make enough. I don't care because I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Like it's
It sounds like you're stable. I think you can only say that when you're not worried. Like you're
I'm
not
afraid to romanticize, but then that's the
Yeah,
idea, right? So myself, what I'm saying is, I want more people to know my art. I want more people to see my art. I want more people to acknowledge it. And then I may sound bragging, but then I had one client who bought my painting, and she cried in front of my painting. She cried. I mean, she saw my painting in a gallery, and she cried. She had this depression. She was going through this, and that resonate that with my painting. She felt something really emotional out of it, and then she bought the painting. Then like you think about that kind of stuff happen. Don't you feel that it's so valuable? Like I want that to happen more. Like I want people to not necessarily I want to make everyone cry, but I want people to emotionally connected to my piece. That's why it's not. That's why I don't want to care about that technicality anymore. Like people, I mean, us artist people. Like we look at art and we break down this like theory of every element of it, like how we value it because it's so well constructed. Yeah. Whereas some people, non-artistic people, watch it, look at it, and then I just feel something out of it, and then I feel it, and when they listen to my story, their emotion is kind of connected to. Maybe I want that happen more, but then if I do it really well, and if I do it to as many people possible, I think that's probably like it's like living your life so well, right?
That means that you're, I guess, positively affecting people.
Yeah.
You mentioned that one of the goals is to try to make your work better, and so how do you define your work better for yourself? Meaning, how can you see? Do you have steps that you can actually take towards being better, other than just creating work?
I think, I don't really break down into steps, and I'm very like unorthodox, like I'm very.
And this is why I'm really curious because once you. This is what I'm curious about, because once you take away the pressure of being technically good, which is, I feel like,
but that's still in myself though. Like I'm unconscious about it, but I still care. Like when I make a brush strokes, I still wanted to make it in a way that's not the point of it, but I still do it subconsciously, right?
But I think that's what I'm asking. I'm almost trying to find out what your standards of maybe good is, and what are the aspects of your painting you get better at, beyond getting this emotional response. I feel like it's an effect of it. But how do you? I'm just curious, like in your mind when you do go to practice, how are you practicing?
I practice like everybody else does. Like I look at other artists' work, and then it's just like copy and everything too.
Okay, I see. I'm just trying to like you're able to do both while not really putting the pressure on yourself to be like someone.
Yeah. So you're getting that information, whatever that you want to learn from that practice is in your head. Like, but then you are not consciously pulling out every time you paint. That's like different way. So I think that example was really good. You're hanging out with your friends with you don't have to be that person with that group, and then you come back with your casual group and like becoming like them. Like you could just be versatile. You can be very. That doesn't mean that you're faking it though. Like you can be like that. You can be different types of yourself.
Dude, that's why I'm amazed. You're so woke, Jace.
No.
Or you're so yourself. It's
I don't know though. Like I don't know whether I'm doing well. Like it's just the whole thing, because once you get that off, right? But I mean,
it's not about doing well though. You're so yourself. It's so incredible to listen to you, because
maybe some people.
No, because like as artists, I think a lot of artists are, like, including myself, like you're vulnerable in a way because of like how you perceive yourself, and compared to other artists. How are you doing and compared to other artists? Is it financially, skillfully, etc.? Like there's so many, and yet you found a way to kind of like it's almost like you don't care, and you found what you like and you do it. And it's so hard not to give into pressures. Of like in so many ways of art, and somehow you just escaped it, I guess.
I think it's something to do with the greed. Like it's sometimes I free myself from greed. Yeah,
guess
I
we're all
you know like
greedy
yeah
bastards.
yeah no, but then like greed is the part of the great motivation too. But then without greed, you won't motivate yourself. Sometimes for some people, they
Totally,
need
yeah.
to that's a great. But then for me, I can still motivate myself to do something without being greedy. Like I
Yeah.
don't try. I don't want something physical and more tangible.
Mm-hmm.
But then I can still do whatever I'm doing right now. But a lot of people who are like not many people, but some people are like that. Like I mean, they're always thinking about how much money I'm making a year. Like they are
Yeah.
very conscious of that, right? So I don't even track it anymore. Like I
Mhm.
just don't care about, you know, what comes out from me as in like like what do I get? Like I don't really care about what I get from doing certain things.
Mm-hmm.
That because I've already experienced it. Like I can get paid $200 here. I can get paid $3,000 here.
Yeah.
Like, then what do I say? Like what is it? This huge gap range, and then how can you justify that? I don't know how to justify it, so I'll just accept whatever that
The
is,
world
right?
doesn't
Like
make
whatever the
sense,
heck
right?
that is. Yeah,
Yeah.
word doesn't make sense to me. A lot of sense, and a lot of crazy things happening. Like a lot of, I mean, but then. Don't you like feel this time? Like I think it's going even more theoretical. But I wake up in the I wake up in the morning realizing, oh, this is so crazy how I get to live as me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have so many people in this world, and then
Mhm.
I get to choose my body, and
Yeah.
my soul chose me, and I leave this body.
Yeah.
And then, that's so like amazing if you think about it.
Yeah.
But then,
How spiritual are you? Are you religious?
no, I'm
But so- but-
actually, yeah,
So
I'm not religious.
because
at
the way
all.
you said it
Yeah.
is so interesting that it's like
Yeah.
you didn't get to choose your body, but here you are being in it and the
Yeah,
life you live.
I don't technically like say that there's soul,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm just hypothetically
Yeah,
saying
no, I
that
get
in
it.
a way that it could be something
It
like
sounds
that.
like you're
right?
very grateful for it, right?
Yeah,
That's
very
huge.
grateful. But that's why that's why coming back to the idea, I'm so corely pessimistic that we could die tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
but that's
then-
an optimist. It's a
yeah,
freeing thought,
that's
right?
free. Yeah,
Takes
freeing
away
thought.
the
Yeah,
pressure.
Yeah, so I get to. I mean, I don't know. Like some of people who might be interested in listening to like Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Ilya? Like there's
Yeah.
a good art intellectual like Sam Harris, and then like, all the people. I get to listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff too.
Mhm.
Like then if you get to go through, like it's just part of it is fun too. Like you just listen to it, but
Mm-hmm.
when you listen to it, you're not just having fun. You listen to it at the moment you feel like that's so connected to your work, your art. So when I listen to those podcasts and everything, I feel like at the end, like, oh, this is actually beneficiating. But then I'm not so greedy about, oh, I'm listening to this podcast because I need to apply this to my work.
It just
I'm
happens.
Yeah, I
it
just happen to
Wow.
become. I happen to come across, and a lot of things are spontaneous that I don't have to be in. Like now, I don't. To be honest, I don't really need to be punctual even. Like I could just cancel my lesson anytime I want. I can just. I don't have to go
Look
to
at your
studio
life,
and
man.
pay. I know, but then that doesn't mean that I make like tons of money out of it. I can. I
But you're
still have the
comfortable.
consequence. Yeah,
You're
I'm comfortable, and because like like if I make more money in a month or lesser money, my lifestyle is the same.
Yeah.
Because I don't like I'm almost kind of anti-consumerism.
So
like,
you found, but that means
consumers,
you
yeah.
found all you need. Meaning, like, if you think about, is there anything else you want in your life?
yeah.
Are you do you think you have everything you need?
I don't think I have everything I need, but I don't really need to be greedy of acquiring something more. I think I'm good at where I mean I still want to be good son to my parents. I
Mhm.
still want to be a good like I want to be a good model for a good my students, and then good brother for my brother.
Yeah.
That's like a comment, right? But
Yeah.
then what do you really want to like, how does that resonate to your work? Like how does that come down to your work? Doesn't necessarily motivated by the greed and a monetary value and a tangible physical need. It's just
Yeah.
more to do it pure idea of being who you are genuinely, like
Yeah.
just
But so what do you need? If you're saying,
I don't even know. Like I
don't know?
maybe I just need that happiness, right?
Yeah.
Like I just need that happiness. I mean,
so
that's
you
what I'm
don't need a
saying.
nice Mercedes.
No. I don't need anything. I don't need. My family recently bought like really good Lexus car, but then I
Nice.
didn't even get to drive yet because I don't really into that.
You
stuff,
don't care?
right? So yeah.
Yeah. No, you,
I mean, but then that's a tendency. Like once you free yourself from it, I feel like I sound like a monk in some way.
a little bit, yeah, a little bit, and it's great.
Yeah. But I think it's just so much. It's so valuable if you think
Yeah.
of it. Like, and then, but then sometimes you, like I may sound very free of whatever, but then I sometimes think of it. Like I look back and like say, oh, maybe I could live a life like that. I get it's tempting.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
It's a very
Oh, dude,
seductive, right? It's
I know what you mean. Sometimes I walk into a store of like watch store, like you see a nice watch. Like, I would like a nice watch, but then it's like, well, do I need one? Maybe not.
Yeah, man, we can just look at cell phone, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't need, I mean, if you think about the pure, need for, be conscious with time.
Yeah.
You don't need those luxury brand. Like, I mean, even the action of driving doesn't require the luxurious car. But
Totally.
it just, yeah.
But to me, going back to the monetary side of art, making art and living a life, to me, I think part of the reason I want to make more money is so that I can have more free time. That's where, if I think about it, sometimes if I worry, it's because can I save enough money to take a year off?
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, that's probably, I'm sure part of it is greed, or whatever. But I'm trying to. Sometimes I do think about it, but then I don't know.
Yeah, I
seems to be
understand.
that
I
motivation.
understand, yeah. But then for me, I think it's also this thing too. Like I don't want to consider teaching or guiding my students in my studio as a work. Then if you think of it as a work, then you need to get a break from it. But then I don't need a break from this because this is my daily routine. Like I just have to do it. Just like what I said, you brush your teeth and you eat and all these like activities that you do as a mandatory of a daily life. My teaching and painting is a part of it too.
You figured out life, Jace. You've unlocked the code, dude.
No.
Yeah, you did.
But that's why you don't need a break anymore from it.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but then that's why I'm trying to like be really careful with the student that I'm teaching. Like if I don't I learn, and then if I'm emotionally very concerned with the student and not getting anything from it, that I feel like I need to have a break from this student. So that point, I just please don't come to my studio. I don't say that like that, but then that's when. And then also my work, if I really hate doing it, then I could just stop and doing something else. So, but in order to get this point, like, in order to get who I am right now, it took 10 years to struggle, and I went through a lot. So it doesn't just happen when you walk in like, oh, I gotta live like me, and then like, it's not gonna be So I don't want to romanticize it once again, but it's needed. You need that. Like, but some people, because that's why it's constructed. What kind of value you construct for yourself?
Exactly.
That's really depending on.
And the way you construct your values is probably how you look at others as well.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure it's also the way the people you surround yourself with. It's probably because that creates value for you. Right, if you're in a group of people who think this, A is the greatest and B is not, you probably start thinking that way. Yeah, but unless you're as free as you are, then you just think whatever you want.
Yeah, even from high school, like my friends were all like smoking weed, or like but not close friend, but then like sometimes, but then I never wanted to do that. Like I just drew. I just had my sketchbook open and I drew. Like like that was a different like outcome. People need to smoke to reduce the stress. Yeah. For me, drawing was the way of reducing it. Like that's what happened to you and a lot of artists, and then a lot of people who listen to this probably know it already. That we are different from the beginning. That the way we live in it, like So
your outlet is a different action, right? Your outlet is just creating something. I think the difficult part is then finding out why you create, other than just because you need to, or do you need a reason to know why you create other than you need to? How do you feel about it? Do you when you go to your studio and you make a painting these days, especially let's say after you taught, do you go in there making paintings but because you feel like, well, you need to make this for an art show one day, or do you just do it because you do it?
Yeah, that's the one thing. I need to do an art show, so I gotta manifest, and then like I gotta manifest myself into it because that's a representation of myself. Without my work, I'm not there. Like without my work, my existence don't mean anything. Almost like that. Like my existence as an artist. So you need to do it, but it's not. I mean, I get to do commission work sometimes too, but then like I don't do it as often. Like I do it when I feel like, and that's I take it as a part of practice, not like making money. But then that's also taking both side of it too. But so it's whenever I have person contact me, oh Jace, I want to do a gallery with you, or like someone invite me for pop-up gallery, whatever, then that's I feel needed to do it, right? But then that's still, I think it's kind of like problem for me too recently. I go to studio, I don't know what to work on.
Interesting.
I sometimes get like empty out. Like I got so much stuff I got so much stuff I wanted to do. So, and I get different feedbacks from people, and then like I don't know what I'm doing. Like and then you have that question mark on you, and it doesn't mean that you're lost or you're done. Like you're doomed. It's not negative. It's not bad at all. But I just have that question mark and turning that into something, beneficiating myself. So,
what kind of feedback do you usually listen to, and which feedback you don't listen to?
I think I listen to feedback that people value storytelling in art. And my work kind of does in a way that it doesn't necessarily always about all storytelling. Like I don't want to sometimes spoon feed my viewer. Like, yeah, that's why the abstract part is coming out from. But then, so that's why when I don't listen to feedback that has more to do with, like, I don't know, subject matter wise. I think subject matter wise, they're like, if they are ever listening, making me to do something, like, if anyone want me to paint like ice cream or horse, like I wouldn't probably want to do it. You know what I mean? Like it's just more to do with feedback but then I listen to feedback in different way that sometimes people want to see something different than my. I mean, I got a lot of artist friends like recommending me to try this one, that, and then and then like that's why I did this like daily challenge last year. I make one piece every day, and then the reason of it is also I wanted to do very different things. And then like whenever you see this great work, you want to do it, but you don't want to copy that. So what if I choose this subject matter to do, and then I just want to do it, but I don't. If I just do it exactly the same, I'm basically like just ripping off this artist. So I want to try do this and then see how it works. So maybe at point I want to do something like that, like it just practice, but I could just do every different style every day. Wow. Like I copy this guy's work and then somehow hybridize everything too.
Damn, dude.
I think we're almost done, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. But it's like, man, you just dropped so much information. I mean, you're such an easy guest to have because you just
really. Oh, really?
Yeah, man. You just. There's so much to talk about. It seems like your experience of art is so rich.
I was worried that I might not, get to say anything about. Like I don't know really what I could beneficiating other artists. But
you say that after like almost 2 hours of talking. You have nothing to say, Jace.
It was so casual that I just like you brought it to that atmosphere where I could just. I love it,
man. It seems like I just love your outlook on art, or just actually, well, not even art, just on life. I think. It appears to be very freeing. It appears to be like you've made your life easier for yourself, and like the fact you're saying like you wake up and you're happy and you know what you're gonna do. It's
but also too, like I'm not sugarcoating my word, but then when I look at you, I mean you're very different. You took very different direction than I did. We were almost in the similar place where we did the group show together when the feature. You are also new to that industry and all that too, right? And then you were like merging into the art scene. I was in the industry too when I was doing the feature show, and then like I quit after, but you became more prosperous. You're art director. So we went very sort of opposite direction at the time. We sustain the value as an artist, but then that's why when I look into you guys, like I look into people like you, and look into artists like you, I kind of envy that too, because I could have gone to that that path. Like I can. It's almost being fulfilled by looking at someone who's doing well as my friend. Like I don't have to be that position. Like because I wanted to witness myself doing it, but not necessarily. It's also same thing as a greed. Like I don't think I can easily be like you. But then what I'm saying is that maybe there's a different path we take, and then you're at like A direction, I'm at B direction, and then we kind of like. Still, we're at the good stage. You love your life too, right? Like
and I'm figuring it out though, and that's why listening to people like yourself is very important, because I don't feel like it feels like you have figured out a lot more than I have, and I'm sure my path will change, they'll shift, but I feel I'm trying to consciously to really.
No, you figure so much with being an art director. You figure so much, so many things in that industry, what they are needing and requiring. I just ran away from it almost.
No, right? But to your point about different path, I think realizing sooner than later that there is an infinity of them, and you could take one, and one is no better than the other. the better path is the one that's best for you.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what that means is very difficult.
yeah,
Like, how do you know you're living your kind of the best possible life
Yeah.
for yourself? That's a tricky thing.
I think letting it go is hard, but I
Very.
think a lot of people need that. Like a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of people need to think of it more. As an as an artist, I think it's really crucial. Like
Yeah.
you living as an artist.
Definitely. Dude, I will. I hope people listening learn so much from this, because I definitely have. This is very inspiring, and it is interesting to me that even, yeah, how much our path, where they started are very similar, because I also came from a different country. I think I was 13, 14. I ended up paying for my own school as well, like you have, and
we went
definitely
through,
feeling lost.
Your
and
your
then-
parents supported you, like it sacrificed a lot, like
Well, it'd be
for them,
just by
yeah,
moving
yeah,
here
yeah,
to
yeah,
Canada,
of
you know,
course, yeah,
and then
yeah.
from there it's kind of like,
Yeah,
well, you
yeah.
take it from here,
Yeah.
and then it's like you're saying, kind of.
that was
know.
initiated us to do, like, it's a great motivation, but at the same time, that what keeps us going, and we don't neglect the side that we need to be realistic, and then we don't just want to be like, like I could be just a painter and not teaching and making enough money for myself, but then reason why I do all that is also partially to support my family,
Yeah.
like in many different ways, not
Mhm.
not always so mandatory. I don't feel obligated to do it, but I feel better by doing it. Like
Mhm.
that's also too. Like some people thinking, "Oh, Jace, you're helping your family so much. Why you do that?" Like I don't understand how you can do that constantly. But then like I just feel better about it. I mean, at the point where I didn't like it, like I didn't wanna. Why do I have to go through all this? Why don't I get? Because a lot of Korean friends and like a lot of people from Korean culture, they're well off, right? They're
Mhm.
like rich, or sometimes like even my friends are super rich. They're like from their high school year, they're driving like sports cars and stuff. Like I don't, but then I never want to be like that. I don't ever value being part of it. I mean, it looked good.
Yeah.
It looked good apparently, so I wanted to grab that. But I always wanted to be better at what I think I need to be better. Like it just that kind of like forced me. That's how constantly my life's like throughout the whole until now. So maybe one day I'll be like I become greedy. Who knows?
I don't know. I
I
don't
made
think
the
so.
transition to that, but yeah. So that's why I get to talk to my friend Jeremy. Is a really close friend. And he's pretty close to my situation, but he doesn't teach, but I teach. But
Mhm.
we're taking that teaching exercise differently, and also like a value of life or value as an artist.
Yeah.
There's just so much more we don't know. And then I once were trying to obtain it so badly. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be a great concept artist. I want to make like 6 digit a year, all
Yeah.
that, like those kind of stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
we all try to be like that,
Mhm.
but it's just we realize so much more out of it. Like it's just just because that constraint is I'm repeating the stuff over and over, but that stuff is constrained by others more likely. But
Mhm.
you you consider that as so valuable, but that's someone else's subjective value, or you cannot thinking objectively on that matter. So
It's like, unless that's what your truly purpose is, but in reality, most people, everyone's path is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
Or everyone's goal. Going back to it, it just sounds like you found your goal. You're amazing, Jace. Let's wrap this thing up. We'll just have you back again, and we'll I'll continue listening to your
for
wisdom.
doing this, but then
Yeah.
like doing for the community itself. It's just great.
Hopefully, it's helping someone. Well, you're
No,
you're
of course,
definitely
yeah.
you're already helping a lot of people.
No,
Jace, how can people find you online if they wanted to see your work?
My stuff, it's jacekimstudio.com.
Mhm.
Just my name with studio, and also Instagram at JAC
The
Kim.
Kim.
Yeah,
Jace
Jace
the
the
Kim.
Kim. Yeah,
Exactly.
Jace the Kim. JACE and THE and KIM. My
This
last
is
name,
the
yeah.
Kim. Don't look for any other Jace
Yeah.
Kim. This is
Other
the guy.
Kim. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
the
the
other
Kim.
ones don't matter. This is the most important one.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, that was quite a ride. That was really amazing to learn more about Jace. Dude, so much wisdom. I'm gonna go home and digest it. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more about Creative Theory Podcast, just go on Instagram. I don't want to play with a lot more social media. Instagram is where it's at. Maybe Facebook, and come say hi.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks again, and have an amazing
Thanks,
day.
guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.